So in the last video, we were just talking about how the lymphatic system works, and the lymphatic system has a couple of real key things in it. Once again, you know, it's this lymphatic fluid that runs through your whole body. It has a lymph nodes that push it. It's kind of like a little pumping station to keep it moving. Whenever we have an organism in the body that we want to get rid of, we actually produce more of the lymph. All of a sudden the organism, the lymph nodes become really hard. It's because they're producing more lymph. Now, how do we know? How does the body know that there's something in there that's not supposed to be? Okay, so we started talking about these B cells and these T cells. Major thing for the medical world. And you know, we used to just think that we fought everything with white blood cells. We used to think that, you know, we just fought everything with having a fever that ran our temperature up to kill bacteria. We understood leukocytes, like I said, white blood cells. But then we discovered the B cells and the T cells. So the B cells are these cells out here that have little appendages off of them that are kind of like Velcro. But they only match the particular disease that they have. Okay? So once an antigen is in the body, okay, like let's say we have an antigen for a particular type of cancer, okay? We got a particular type of cancer in the body, then this B cell has a little appendage off there, like we're talking about in our book, and let's say it has a little structure like this. Well, the cancer then is kind of like fits into the puzzle. So when the cancer comes in, it fits in here perfect. Okay, it's almost like it's kind of like an enzyme that has a substrate, kind of like a lock and a key thing. Well, the B cells are going throughout the body. So whenever something gets in the body's able to make the B cells to try to match up with the antigen. Now, so here's all these B cells going through your lymphatic system, and then all of a sudden they match up and they find these organisms out there and they pull them out of the body. Now, what happens is we have something called T cells. Now, in these T cells, we turn around and then as soon as a B cell begins to find these organisms, we have T cells floating throughout our lymphatic system, and these T cells match up with the same kind of pattern, and it says, oh, like for example, there's one, we'll call it cancer A, okay? A lot of different types of cancer. We'll say, here's cancer A in the body. The B cell goes in and recognizes cancer A and begins to make connections on this Velcro and begins to catch them. The T cells are floating throughout the lymphatic system. The T cells match up with the same deal and go, and all of a sudden they trigger the body, and the T cells then make the body produce a whole lot more B cells that are exactly like that. So all of a sudden, instead of one tank fighting the war, we're going to make hundreds of tanks. Okay? But the T cells do something else too. The T cells also isolate this foreign particle, isolate this disease. So here's this cancer A. So the T cell comes in and tries to isolate all of the organism that it can, okay? And it also makes more B cells to go out and fight it. So B cells actually collect and trap, okay, the organism. What do the T cells do? They produce something called cytokines, okay? C-Y-T-O-K-I-N-E-S, cytokines, and they come in and they try to isolate, okay, try to make a bunch of fibers to stop the organism, okay, and then they also go, and whenever the T cells trigger themselves, boom, that sends a message to the body to make a whole lot of B cells that fight whatever it is. So in this case, cancer A. Okay, now it sounds kind of complicated, but big thing, big thing. So what's one of the newest cancer things going on right now in medicine, and we're going to talk about that, and it has to do with the B cells and the T cells. Okay, so what happens is let's say that let's say the body has let's say we have a brain tumor and we have a cancer cell. Now once again, not to simplify cancer so much to make it to where it's not. I don't want to simplify. There's a lot more to cancer than this, but cancer is a DNA of a cell. You know, when you went through interphase, prophase, metaphase, anaphase, and telophase, the cell didn't divide right or something happened, or we had a process of the cell that the DNA now no longer does the function of the cell. So that cell had a specific DNA that told it exactly what to do, but now that cell is doing something different. That's cancer. Okay, that's cancer. Well, why doesn't the body fight cancer? Well, the reason is because the body comes in, and the body, when it sees brain cells that are not working right, the body can't go in and say, it can't distinguish between the good brain cells and the cancerous brain cells, and the body can't go in and fight brain cells. So what they're doing in this tumor now, okay, what they're doing in this tumor is they're injecting something in the tumor that the body can recognize. Okay? So for example, let's say one of the big things that they're injecting is tuberculosis organisms that don't have the DNA for tuberculosis. Now, isn't this amazing? We take tuberculosis, we pull the DNA out, we have the cell there that's got the same recognizers, and it picks up the same, because the B cell, remember, it doesn't look at the DNA, it looks at the antigens, it looks at the pattern of the cell. So we come in there and we inject a brain tumor, okay, or wherever it's at, with tuberculosis, and our body doesn't want to fight brain cells, but it wants to fight tuberculosis cells. So all of a sudden the B cell says, oh, I recognize this as tuberculosis. Here comes, so all of a sudden it starts to pull those cells in, and it starts working on that brain tumor because it thinks that brain tumor is tuberculosis, and our body is geared to get tuberculosis. So it starts pulling those out, and those B cells come in, and then we come in with those T cells, and right away the T cells start making more B cells, produce rapidly, and as long as the body thinks that brain tumor is tuberculosis, then it begins to kill it and destroy it. And incredible, incredible accuracy. We're fighting off cancers that we've never had a chance with any other procedures. In your lifetime, it's going to be really big. So in the lymphatic system, what could we do? Well, if we knew we were going to inject that with tuberculosis organisms and the B cells are going to find them, how do we make, would you inject more B cells or would you inject T cells? Well, it's kind of interesting because we go in, so what's the cancer treatment now is to find the B cells that are working and inject T cells. So now we're gonna infuse this person. We're gonna go into the bloodstream. We're gonna go into the lymphatic system. We're gonna put in all these T cells that are gonna travel throughout the body, and it's gonna make a ton of the B cells that go in and attack whatever organism we want to do. So the problem that we've been having with cancer, let's take lung cancer, brain cancer, liver cancer. It doesn't matter. Throat cancer. Our body doesn't want to destroy those cells. So we're coming in and injecting those tumors with something like tuberculosis, and it will fight that off. And once again, years ago we didn't understand B cells, we didn't understand T cells, but B cell and T cell cancer is cancer treatment with B cells and T cells is becoming very successful. T cells, once again, cause the B cells to produce cytokines that actually isolate the organism. Okay, so once again, I needed you to understand that. That's really big. This is beyond just test material. So that you understand what's happening out there. And there's going to be other people. Somebody looks at this like, oh, that's really cool, but I don't really understand it. It's not really all that complicated. But as we learn it, then we begin to learn other things, and somebody else sees, oh, well, if that works, maybe this will work. Maybe this will work. Maybe this will work. And the new research in cancer is incredible. It's not just cancer, it's fighting all diseases, but we're understanding B cells and T cells. Okay, so once again, I did give you the diagram on page 617. That will be on your test. And now that we've covered B cells, T cells, I'm going to go through now, and we're going to talk about some of the specific things that will be on your test as well. Okay, so hopefully you've got your pencil and your paper ready to go, and you've got a knowledge already of B cells and T cells, and basically an understanding of the overview of the lymphatic system. Okay. Now, the largest lymphatic organ in a child is the thymus, T-H-Y-M-U-S, okay? So that's the largest lymphatic organ in a child, the thymus. Now what does the thymus do? The thymus is producing this lymph and getting this circulation of this lymph throughout this child. Now as a child grows, what does the child do? The child will develop the lymph nodes, and then the lymphatic system will operate within itself. Okay, so once again, the largest lymphatic organ in a child is the thymus, T-H-Y-M-U-S. Now, where are B lymphocytes believed to mature in an adult human? Okay, so I talked about B cells. Okay, that's what we're talking about here. Okay, so where are B lymphocytes believed to mature in humans? In other words, where do we grow these B cells? If we're going to introduce T cells, where do they grow? And the answer is, it's in the bone marrow. Now once again, we talked about the bone marrow. That's the inside of the bone. We produce blood inside there, but we also produce the B lymphocytes, the B cells. So where are they produced? Inside the bone. So isn't, you know, I mean, I could almost say this to every unit, but isn't this amazing that all this is going on and you don't even realize it, because your body is such an incredible creation that inside of your bone we can make the B lymphocytes that are specific for different organisms and different, isn't that amazing, for different foreign particles that are in there. So where are the B lymphocytes made? They're made in the bone marrow. What would happen if the pectoral lymph nodes were removed during a surgical procedure? Okay, so now my question is, okay, so when we talk about pectoral, we're talking around the pelvis, around the hip. Okay, so what if those lymph nodes were removed and we no longer could move lymph through that area? Then what would happen is we would have edema, E-D-E-M-A, would develop distally. Okay, now so edema means we would develop pockets of lymphatic fluid. Okay, and what does it mean distally? Okay, so you know from your terminology earlier that distal means away from. So what does a lymph node do? Well, it collects this and then it pushes the lymphatic fluid on. So what's going to happen is, okay, if that's not there, okay, then before we can send this on, so we don't pump this on, we're going to form edema, which is pools of lymphatic fluid that have to form what? All the new capillaries, and it gets cut off. Okay. So my friend that I was telling you about that had the lymph nodes removed in his back, he began to lose. He still had the lymphatic fluid in his body, but he wasn't able to circulate it through those areas. So it formed in that picture in 6:17. It formed new capillaries wherever it had to cap itself off. So it still could store it, but then we would have areas where it didn't have that lymphatic system. Okay. So let's do one more here. What is the main cause of edema following damage in an area of lymphatic vessels? Okay, and the answer is it's an increase in tissue proteins. Okay, and once again, what is the main cause of edema following damage to an area of lymphatic vessels? Now, there's a lot more to edema, and I don't even that's a good thing. You know, you have to answer a ton of questions, and I know it's a lot of work, and those practice questions throughout the chapter. But that's our way of making sure that you pick everything up. So you're going to study edema in a lot more detail, okay? But what happens is whenever we have, and I didn't do a good job explaining edema a while ago, there's a lot more to edema than an area where we're accumulation of lymphatic fluid. But the main cause of edema, following damage to an area of the lymphatic vessel is increase in tissue proteins. Now, why is this? So if we have edema, why do we make tissue proteins quick? What do proteins do? Proteins make new cells. And so whenever we have a damage in the lymphatic system, what do we have to do? We have to make capillaries. What do we make things out of? We make them out of proteins. So right away we see an increase in tissue proteins. Quick manufacture of a healing process to seal that off. So I'll see you at the next video. We'll cover some more.